And so I'm just really also honored to be here and to visit. So as Kitty mentioned, is that I grew up near a coal mining facility, and it was there before I was born. And the issue with this coal mining facility is that it used our pristine groundwater, our only groundwater that we have in the region of my community, many communities. And we live in really rural areas of our reservation. And for 50 years, a coal company would extract coal and use our groundwater to mix a slurry, and they would send it, so they would use our water to transport the coal to a coal-fired power plant that was located about 300 miles away from our homelands. And this had a severe impact to our groundwater, where it impacted our springs. And the way that I was brought up is we grew up without electricity, grew up without running water, and still to this day, 40% of our people don't have running water. We haul water. Electricity has been a big issue. You know, the fact that our coal and our natural resources, you know, supported the cities like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona. You know, these are big metropolitan cities, you know, couldn't grow if it weren't for the resources that were coming from our tribal communities, both the Navajo Nation and the Hopi tribe. And so at a young age, I understood quickly, one, our concern with the water and what we have to do to protect it, and that created the ability for us to come together as a community, like you are, to address an issue and to come up with strategy and solutions. So in 2006, we were able successfully, at grassroots level, shut down that slurry operation. And so they had to find another way to transport the coal and not use our groundwater. I also learned a lot about the life cycle of coal mining and electricity. And this was what sparked my interest, is because even if we shut that down, the coal mining company came back and wanted to extract more. And when you come up against industries that have much more, financial backing, and or at the ear of the government, it's really hard, you know. And so, we did a lot of brainstorming, and I think the piece that got to me at that moment was to think about the ideas of just transition. What does a regenerative economy look like for our communities? And let's pay attention to what's happening right here, right now. What do we have here in our communities that need attention? And so we started to just focus at the local level, and I think what you all are doing here, you're on your path to already doing that, and it's beautiful because you're starting to seed, the impacts you're seeing at the, we say Hogan level, at the everyday people level of our elders, of our children, and where they live, play. So I just want to commend many of you that are already doing that work, because that's the important piece that makes us unique as Native people, as Indigenous people, is that what I've learned is we lean on our traditional wisdom. We call it traditional knowledge in the States, but it's just the equivalent as science. That all of the stories that you're capturing, Ash, with those talking to people and talking about the impacts they're seeing, that's the wisdom that is going to make this movement much stronger. That wisdom is the tool for us that we have in our indigeneity that is going to guide us in the way that we are going to create those solutions, because it's backed by so many generations of understanding this land, understanding the pathways of water, understanding even the mapping that I saw earlier, which is really significant because I learned a lot today. And I want to bring those tools too to my community. So thank you for sharing that with me. Surprisingly, after all my environmental justice work and trying to stand for a just transition or regenerative economy, I also learned that we have to translate a lot of the concepts, these wonky concepts, scientific concepts in our language. And that's what's going to make it really strong. And, but again, the backing of our ancestors. And so I just want to encourage you all to continue to do that. The piece that I want to share here as you all are coming together in community is that I was quickly introduced to many communities just like mine. Communities that are dealing with this kind of similar extractive industries, big companies polluting their lands, polluting their water, polluting their people. Many of these industries are located in low-income, mostly brown, black, native communities, indigenous communities globally. And what I also learned is that 80% of the biodiversity globally, 80% of the biodiversity globally is on or near indigenous people's land. So if we are as a global society, environmental society, a conservation society that cares about our warming planet, we have to invest in indigenous peoples. We have to invest in this traditional knowledge because I see that it is many communities, it is the solution to that combating climate change because of this wisdom that we have and an understanding of the caretaking, an understanding of community, an understanding of our relationships to one another as, as women, as men, as relatives. And I think that that's the piece that is missing in this movement globally when it comes to climate change. In these last 4 years, been happy to see the tribes have been leading the way in clean energy. It's over 10 years, they've been seeing, 20 to 30 years, they've been seeing the climate impacts in North America. And they came up with these principles too, on how to work together, with other communities. And so that's something that would be, I'm sure you all have gone through a process of coming up with principles of how you work together, even though you come from different cultures and different communities, is that shared understanding of communication, shared understanding of being inclusive, shared understanding of people speak for themselves. Communities that have been in the shadows of pollution, that they have the opportunity to speak and advocate for themselves. These are some of the basic principles, but I think these are pieces that I feel like in the environmental conservation movement really needs to understand and respect the wisdom, but also communities that are often feeling the burden of climate impacts or just the economic burden. Sometimes they don't have the space and time to be thinking about climate change. It's not on their front, it's not on their, that they're trying to get by day. And so how do we create that communication to make them a part of the conversation and the movement? Last 4 years, I've been really honored to be a part of the Biden-Harris administration and continue to invest and build in tribal nations that are showing the examples of energy resilience. So building their own energy source, mostly from renewable energy, battery storage, solar, wind. Tribes are doing it all in North America. It's amazing, but they're doing it at a necessity of weathering the climate impacts. Many of these tribes designed energy systems because forest fires, came through and messed up the transmission pathway. So they wanted to have backup power. And so that's the trend that you're seeing in a lot of North American tribes is they're creating their own backup power for emergency facilities, for health clinics, so they can respond. And I think that's something that could be part of the planning too. I don't know if you consider it on the energy front, but it's really important to have that backup battery, backup energy system so that you can continue to grow that. The other piece that this administration did was to support, create a fund to support tribes that were losing their land to climate erosion. So there was money to relocate nations to different places to higher ground. And so those are things that are ongoing right now in our communities. And I just wanted to touch a little bit about what's happening in North America, and that you're not alone, that I just am inspired by what you all are doing here. And it's good medicine for me, and I hope to continue to stay involved and wanting to learn more about how the planning goes and the strategy and the action, right? But also it's going to take a lot of financing. It's going to take different set of skill sets to be able to address some of the vision, right, of what you all are going towards. The other piece is workforce. Just so many amazing potential climate jobs in workforce, where you're building capacity internally in your own nation, in your own tribe or iwi, and that just know that that talent already exists in your community, that you don't have to go anywhere else, it's right there already. And so that's something that I've learned as well in these last 4 years, is just communities in really remote places like in Alaska. One community I went to go visit recently, they did a 1 megawatt solar array. So it's a pretty big, it can power maybe 1,000 homes. And the ice, like -50 degrees. And so it's amazing. And I see, so much wisdom, again, and planning that it took for them to get there. And so it's possible in really remote places that they're doing it and showing it, and people are really excited and watching and using the technology that is in line with their traditional values and who they are too, and really respecting that. So this is what I am been up to for the last few years, and I just want to say thank you so much, Akiahe, in my language, for having me speak to you all.